Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, I'm going to date stamp this. It's year 5, blog 8, or in legacy numbers, blog number 216. And today is the 12th of April, 2026. And I'm looking out the window and it's a lovely day, bit chilly, but sunny. I'm happy that the garden is looking less scruffy as it has done over the winter months. I've mowed the lawn a couple of times during the dry times, and there hasn't been many of those, and next to no time during my mother's hospital. So yeah, it's been a sort of a tricky one, really. But it's so nice that we're now after the clock changes, and now we've got Easter out the way, that things might come a little bit better in regards to happiness. Because a lot of my people that I speak to online talk about how the winter months really can be depressing. And I dare say I've succumbed to that, but probably not psychologically accepted it. I've been concentrating so much on other things that I haven't really been thinking about it. But anyway, let's get the news out of the way. I hate the news. News is always pretty poor, other than in the last week where there has been a couple of good news things that have actually got me buzzing. But generally, it's full of the doldrums of wars and things. So let's have a little look. So the top story, when I was looking at it, when I said, please put in the top stories of this week, the one at the top said, peace talks in Pakistan between US and Iran collapsed without a deal. A fragile ceasefire was struck initially, but collapsed after the fundamental commitment against developing nuclear weapons was not agreed upon. Wow. Yeah. You know, I've got no opinion other than I hate wars and I want wars to end, and that hasn't changed. What else have we got here? It says, Defense Secretary John Healey reported significant Russian submarine operation tracking undersea cables and pipelines in British waters, prompting deployment of UK vessels in response. Oh, good God. Now, we go from one part to another part where there's now submarines coming from Russia tracking cables that we use between continents, which we use for data security and other things, as well as our pipelines for oil and gas. Yeah, like we don't have enough news about oil and gas, which then goes to the next news article. Fuel shortages and rising costs with diesel now reaching £2 a litre has sparked protests at oil refineries across the UK and Ireland, leading to multiple arrests. Good God. Like I said, spiral. One hits another. Absolutely atrocious. The next one, no more happier. The Wireless Festival has been cancelled after headliner Kanye West was blocked from entering the UK. This was, I think, at the beginning of the week. I was going on a walk, and I heard that this Kanye West made comments that included Nazism, if that's a word, for which we and the UK banned him from entering the UK, which then pulled out certain sponsorship, which then blocked or cancelled this whole Wireless Festival. He blamed his bipolar disease. haven't really got an opinion on this other than it seems very much like another spiral, and I wouldn't want him in the country, to be quite honest, with those with comments, if they are derogatory comments that have been made. I really don't know. I don't know what the derogatory comments are, so I just go, there's no need for it, and I can understand if somebody's got something like Tourette's or something, that it can be a medical thing, but I don't know about bipolar, I must admit. So we then move to the last bit, which is the only sort of like good news story as far as I'm concerned. Artemis 2, which we've been talking about quite a bit because I love space. The mission concluded successfully on Saturday. This week, the capsule went round the far side of the moon, travelling further than any mission previous, and splashed down without a hitch. There were some minor problems, things like the toilet leaks, that sort of stuff, all stuff that's correctable. Concerns about sort of re-entry shielding, unfounded, worked well. So what a great story. We need some good news. That's all I can say about it, really. I was one of those people that watched the blast off. I watched the splashdown as much as I could. It has been a tiring week, so I did fall asleep at one point and had to recap the next day. But for the most part, I followed it on a time-by-time basis, and enjoyed my time, sort of like listening to good news stuff. There's been some joking crap that you get, and I have to say this, and I don't quibble over it. Flat earthers, saying that the rocket was a helium balloon was one. Seriously? So the whole rocket was a helium balloon. Oh, Jesus. I mean, seriously, I laughed for about 10 minutes. I just went, oh my God, this guy seriously believes that, this thing was a balloon. One turned round and said that the rocket was going 30 miles an hour at one point. 30 miles an hour, a rocket. Yeah. I'm sorry, I've got no time for these people. I do have time for people with beliefs, but with so much evidence, it's to me it's bewildering. And that's the news. See what I mean? Nothing really great there, and I'm glad I just use it as a timestamp, because I do want people to look back at this and know what was going on in the news, and the spiral nature, the domino nature of everything. One thing hits another thing, which hits another thing, with very little good news. Do you know what I mean? I looked for quite some time this morning. I've started this a little bit late, for a couple of reasons, and I'll explain those in a bit. Looking for good news stories, and very few. It's all people being sentenced and killing people with cars and all sorts of stuff. I mean, there was another news article. It talked about a person that is an immigrant that doesn't have a UK driving license, but has a loophole in the UK law where they can drive in this country with a foreign license, that mowed down a pensioner. I mean, these are not good news stories, and it was terrible. So yeah. So let's get the week out the way. You'll probably see me still shifting about. The good news is I am starting to feel a little bit better in my back and leg. It is not happening very fast. In fact, I still walk around like I'm an actor in Planet of the Apes most mornings. And the difficulty with it all is that I've been told to take an increase in painkillers. And what those painkillers did was make me drowsy. Not only was I able to sit down for a longer period of time, which is great news, about an hour and a half before I had to stand up and walk it off. The downside is that once I sat down, I was getting up and down out of the chair every half an hour, right, which is no good for work. Not only have I got thoughts going on with my mum and everything, but I've got my own thoughts on my own health, and I've started to look at those things and go, right, now I need to concentrate on me a little bit. But I increased the pain meds and I got drowsy. So I phoned up on Tuesday because it was Easter bank holiday Monday. I couldn't do much there. And so I phoned up the doctor's surgery on Tuesday and just said, look, I just need to speak to the same physio. I've extended my fit note, but I need to speak to her about my meds. And they said, okay, you'll get a link. And I got a link and I clicked on it, and no word of a lie, but for me to speak to this person by phone or by face to face, I would have spoken to her 3 days before my fit note ran out. So I then had to phone back and say, look, I need to speak to someone urgently, more urgent than the link that you sent me. Can we get this arranged? I explained it all again on the reason why. They said, oh, I totally get it. Let me see what I can do. She booked it for a telephone conversation before 6 o'clock that day. So this is Tuesday. And that never happened. So that was Tuesday. The fit note, I was told, would take a couple of days because of the amount of calls that happened over the bank holiday weekend, which meant they had a backlog, and I totally understood that. So I called work, and work were very good, very nice about it, and I said I'd get the fit note to them ASAP. It actually arrived Friday, so I'm going to be sending that off today. It wouldn't have mattered whether I sent it Friday or not. It would have made no difference. They'd have done something with it on the Monday, tomorrow. So it makes no difference with that. So on the Wednesday, I had to phone up again because I didn't get the call on Tuesday. They said, yes, it does roll over. You see, you're not told whether, if you don't get a call that day, does it roll on to the next day? So you have to make another phone call to find out whether that's going to happen that day or not. Luckily, it does roll over, and the call came through at 5 o'clock. So Wednesday at 5 o'clock was when I got the phone call, and we got some traction moving, and I've been told to wean myself off of a certain particular painkiller, take paracetamol instead of the codeine version of it, and it will take several days to wean off. So don't expect the drowsiness to go away very soon, but you should see some differences this next week coming. So I've got my fingers crossed, and the painkillers should help me with my walking, which therefore means I'm exercising and stretching, which means I should be back at work. Absolutely fantastic. I've got some traction going. While that sort of stuff is going on, I treated myself to getting my hair cut. Do you know, the funny thing about it is I've never liked my hair. My hair has always been fine, right? It hasn't got any thickness or volume to it, I think is the word they use. And I've always, when I was a kid and my mum was getting me ready for school, she side parted me for years and years and years, side parting. And so your hair gets trained. And I've got, the line that goes this way across. And no matter how much I try and spike it or get something out, I used to have my hair going, by the way, back, right, slicked back, until I hated that style as well. That I get my hair sticking up at the back because I've got what they call a double crown. It's not unusual. It happens in a lot of people. They got double crowns, but it does mean that your hair sticks up at the back. It always reminds me of watching the film Roxanne. There's a fire officer there that's being measured up for his clothes, and he uses this words. He says, "How do you want this?" And he says, "Give me something that says action with style," a sort of James Bond look. And I used to love that line, action with style. So I used to go into barbers and they used to say, "How do you want it?" And I'd say, "Oh, can you give me something that says action with style?" I don't do that anymore. This was during my 20s and 30s, but always used to make me laugh because I've got no idea. I mean, when you've got a face that looks like Shrek, you don't know how you want your hair. So, it is what it is. Hard enough to shave and so forth than to work out whether your hair needs doing. So that was the funny little story during the week. And the rest of the week has been looking after my mum. The difficulties I'll talk about when I talk about my mum, really. But my sister and I have got difficulties with a regime at the moment in regards to the care package. And there's not an awful lot we can do about it because the care package is a free care package. So, as much as we'd like to know what time are you going to be arriving, and all of this sort of stuff, who's coming, they're all unknowns. So a perfect example was today. I spoke last night to the people that turned up at 7 at night, which was great. 7 o'clock is perfect. I said, "What time are you coming tomorrow?" The 2 people that came said it will be a different 2 people. I don't know who that will be. But as far as I know, you're on the same schedule as you've always been. And I said, "Oh, okay, so that's 7. And they said, "I should think so." And that's how it ended. So I got up at 6:30 on a Sunday morning. And you can't really do an awful lot. You hope that you don't wake your mum up. Okay? Because there's no point waking somebody up if they're going to be delayed. So anyway, I got everything ready. I got my mum's pajamas ready. I got socks ready. I got the toothbrush, toothpaste, glass of water ready. I got the bowl with the flannel and the sponge ready, but you can't put hot water in it till they arrive. And I got a flask of tea ready so that my mother can have tea and it's kept warm, so I don't have to keep walking to the kettle to get a cup of tea. And everything else was all set. 7:20 came, 7:30 came, 7:45 came, 8 o'clock came, 8:15 came, 8:30 they turned up. So I opened the door and said, "Wonderful to see you. I hope everything was okay with the person that delayed you." "We're not delayed," they said. I said, "Well, I was told you're coming at 7. "No, we're down for 8:30. I said, "Well, this is the difficulty." I said that I've been sitting around for an hour and a half. My mum did wake up about 7:45, so she's been awake for 45 minutes. I can't give her her tablets because they take an age, and I don't know from the moment that you don't turn up at 7 whether you're going to be in the next 10 minutes or whether you're going to be here in the next half hour. I've got no idea, so I can't start giving her breakfast and her drinks and stuff until I know that you're here." And they said, "Apologies, but that's the time we're set down to do." So they came in and did their job, and they've got a difficult job. So I'm not grumbling. I'm grumbling really at the administration. Do you know what I mean? Most people don't have a problem with people. They have problems with administration or why things are so difficult. And I definitely had one this morning with that. I told them the trouble with it is as well with different carers that turn up, you have to repeat yourself. So I have to say, yeah, the pajamas are there, the towel is over there, the bowl of water's just coming. There's the pads and there's the barrier creams and all of that sort of stuff. There's the blue bags to put the dirty stuff in. And of course, I don't like to watch them because I know what it's like being watched. Do you know what I mean? It's not nice. But I also told them I do need to observe, because when the care package finishes, I need to be able to do this myself with my sister. So I do need to know how you roll my mother to one side and how you pull things under and how you use the slide sheet, all of that sort of stuff. And they said that was no problem. So I told them that what my sister told me the day before, and that was that my mother was going to the toilet with a huge piece of poo coming out from her. And so they wanted to use kitchen towel because it was more absorbent, even if it was a bit rougher. Now, this particular carer didn't like that. They said, oh, no, we'll use tissues. So this is what happened was my mother did start to go to the toilet. They wiped it all away. When they tried to put the pad on, she started to be constipated more because she's being moved from left to right. It's a natural bodily movement. Not a lot you can do about it. Of course, they were using tissues and wipes like nobody's business. And I'm going, oh, my God. It costs a fortune, tissues and all this sort of stuff. But I'm going, my mum's going to be clean. But I did tell them there was this kitchen roll, but they refused to use it because it was rough. And I said, okay, but it was your previous carers that asked for it. I'm just telling you, a previous carer asked for it, and you as a carer are not going to use it, and you're going to be using more of this material. And they said, well, we don't want her to have sores. And I said, I get it. So they put a pad on. And then when they asked my mum to turn to one side after they put the pad on to pull her pajama bottoms up, my mum said, oh no, I'm wetting myself. So then they had to pull them down, and lo and behold, she'd soiled that. And so we had to use another pad. So not only was all this tissue going on, another pad was being used. And these pads cost my sister an awful lot of money. My sister bought these ones, as she's been doing actually for the last couple of weeks. It's absolutely wonderful. And there's another story behind that, and I'll explain just how hard things are for my sister as well. Is that these particular pads, they've got sort of Velcro straps, and if you pull them too hard, they rip, right? The straps rip off, and so there's nothing to stick them to. But so out of 14, they come in 14 pads per pack. Okay. And they're about 16 quid. So we bought 2 lots. That's 30, 30, 40 quid, right, worth of stuff. We went through 2 pads out of that pack as quickly as that. And the day before, one of the carers ripped off one of the side straps, which meant we went through 2 there as well. So that was 4, and then you needed the pads changing during the day. So we're going through, about 4 pads a day, and you get 14. So that's, every 3 and a bit days at 16 to 20 quid, depending on where you buy them from. So that's 40 quid a week, times that by a month. Now, I'll talk about why this is a problem a bit later on. And it's a problem for both of us, but at the moment for my sister, because of the costs, right? Not me. What I bought this week has been the normal food, the papers, all of that sort of stuff, which mounts up, don't get me wrong. And I mean, take it like this, newspapers. Now, my mum reads the newspaper and she doesn't understand, right, what she's reading, right? The newspaper bill, and I've been buying the newspapers this month because my sister used to do it for the last couple of months, was £52 a month. And it's just, it just spirals. But anyway, so I had a bit of a nightmare today, and it's one that I'm glad to vent and get it out the system, because I don't feel bad for the carers. It's the administration side that caused all the hassle, because there I was, 6:30 in the morning. I could have slept in till 7:30. It would have helped with my drowsiness, that I've got with my tablets. So they don't understand that you're causing health issues on somebody else with this. But it is what it is. So we've got a little bit of a problem, niggly things like this, and my sister and I both agree we'll be laughing about this, because once the caring package is out the way, it'll be just her and I again, and we'll be getting into our regime, and we'll be able to keep to a timescale that we want, so that's great. When it comes to my mother, there's a couple of concerning things. My sister's child, firstborn, Alex, turned up, and my mum didn't recognise him. Now, he does live in another country, but it is her grandchild, so it obviously long-term memory as well as short-term memory is now being affected. Most of the time now, my mum still recognises my name. There hasn't been a time where she hasn't all week, but she does call me sister. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, because I think it started last week. I believe that she's calling me sister because of the amount of nurses that are around, and nurses used to be called sisters, right? If you ever used to watch Angels, an old BBC drama series that used to be on about 7 o'clock, or after the news anyway, during the 80s, they were called sisters, right? But I found out from my sister as well, my actual sister, that my mum, before she was adopted, had her learning, her education at a nunnery, and so she was surrounded by sisters. And it might well be that she's calling sisters because she looks at me as a person that cares for her, as a carer. So that's this bit disconcerting. For your sister to be called sister, fair enough. For your son to be called sister, it's like, oh, it's just another thing. But you get rid of those things. They don't mean nothing after a while. In regards to my mum's health, therefore, she's feeding herself. She's cleaning her own teeth. She's still not talking very much to us. She doesn't scream in pain when she's rolled from side to side to get new clothes on. So that's all a godsend. And so from a certain perspective, it looks very much like we are seeing a new norm. And I hope this time that the norm that we've got is a long period of time. Nobody wants to hear of another degradation. We know that it's a degrading disease, dementia. But it's just that they've been happening so fast. It's almost like it was every 2 to 3 months. In its longest, and sometimes weekly at one point. So, yeah. I just want some normality, care for my mum, get on with my sister, all of that sort of stuff. And I can see that happening better than ever before. And it's just a matter of working it all out. There's a lot of jobs to do. I was talking about the garden. That needs to be done. I need to get rid of some furniture. The old sofa and the old armchair needs to be chucked. Along with an exercise bike that was never used. It's an old decrepit thing. And then, of course, my sister told me, you have to arrange that with the council. And she looked it up, and that's another expense. But there you go. And, of course, I chased up the council as well, because I haven't received my stickers for my bin for the garden waste to be chucked away. So it's now filled with grass cuttings, and they won't pick it up until that label is on the bin. So that's another little headache. So in some ways, I hope that we don't get too much rain, because the rain makes the grass grow, and then when you get the dry weather, you cut the lawn, and I've got nowhere to put the cuttings. I might have to speak to my neighbour and just say, have you got space? Is it possible I can use that? And explain the situation. And I'm sure they've been lovely, you know, by the way. So hopefully that happens. And that's really it for me. Work, because there's been no work. And my mother, I will say this, that you will see me moving. I am uncomfortable. I will need to pause at certain junctures of this, because I need to walk off and get rid of the ache and pain in my leg. And yeah, I'm hoping that there'll be a fast return for me. You know, as much as I want to be around my mum, I need to earn. I need to get back to work. So the good news is that I've had distractions good distractions, should I say, this week, which I'll talk about in a bit. I've always had my normal Wednesday with my friend Ian, but I also had a lovely chat with my friend Mainmeister on Friday, and we were talking on a subject that I found very interesting, and I'll talk about that in a little while. But all of those things are distractions, which are good distractions. They take me away from thinking about how awful things are at the moment. And it's why I love all of the shout outs and the comments, because I feel wanted, needed, and they're distractions that take me away from me dwelling about just how bad my mum's situation is. So to all those people, thank you so much. Absolutely wonderful. Can't fault it. So right now, that's the news and my week out the way. We'll get to the shout outs. And you know, I always love, this is the bit where from here on, it's great. So I've had a number of people comment. The numbers have been great as well. And I've managed to actually text speak sort of to people and understand their situations on why there's been less comments and all that sort of stuff. And it is as I thought it was. Life things are in the way. And it's nice to know that those people are still around, still thinking about me, and will get back to me, you know, when time allows. Absolutely marvellous. Sometimes you wonder to yourself, have I said something? Have I done something? You know what I mean? You dwell on yourself, you know. So just to read out the names, and then in no particular order, these people have left comments. They are Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Jambon, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Steve Still Plays Games, Wee Bob, Martroid, Carl Todd, and an honorary mention to Robert's Retro Gaming, because if you didn't notice about last week's blog, I put up an apology because I didn't do a check on the sound for, you know, just because it was early in the morning and I was working on my mum, and it was Easter Sunday and all sorts of stuff. And when I found out, it was when I uploaded it, and I thought to myself, oh, I might be able to use Adobe Premiere to normalize the sound. So I normalized the sound and re-uploaded it, but it also took a comment away. So, of course, that comment was scrubbed. So he's not in the comments. What's there now? Because obviously life moves on. He'd already made a comment and he doesn't think that he needed to bring back another comment. I can't remember what it said because I usually look at them on the Sunday and when I'm recording this. So all I can say is, Robert, thank you very much. Whatever you put. I did actually tell him that I had to remove the video and re-upload it. And he said, oh, you do what you need to do. And a lot of people commented and said, I didn't hear any audio issues. And the reason for that is they watched it after I'd fixed the audio. Do you see what I mean? So I did actually put it in the description, but not everybody as well reads descriptions. You know, you have to, they watch the video, but unless you actually mention it in the video, they're not going to know that you recognize that there's an audio problem. Do you see what I mean? So yeah, it was a weird Sunday. That Sunday was not a great Sunday, really. But it was what it was. And to all those people that I've just read out, thank you so much. And to everybody that's watching, thank you. I know that I'm letting you into my life and I'm portraying what's gone on in the week. It's not a blog, it's a diary. I'm letting you read my diary, really. How many people, by the way, hands up, actually allow other people to read their diary? I do it because there's a lot of information that I want to partake and give to people in regards to care, like caring for your mother, so they don't fall into the same traps. So they recognize the problems with, expenses and all of that sort of stuff and other things. It's also really for my family mostly when I'm gone, so it's the legacy side of things. It's not for now, because as I've mentioned many times before, my dad died about 10 years ago. Well, it was 10 years ago this September. And I've got pictures of my dad, no video of him. And I've got one audio recording, which I'll never get rid of. It's a voicemail message telling me to tell Mum that he was going to be late home. And that's the only voice recording I've got. And as 10 years have gone by, I can still picture him, see him, but it's becoming less and less easy for me to remember how he sounded, if that makes sense. So it's sad when that happens. So that's another reason for this. So for all those people that think this is a self-indulgent thing, it's not. It is for family when I'm gone, legacy really, and you get the benefit of watching. If you don't want to know, tune off. It's not for you. It's for people that just want to know what's going on, interesting, and probably pick up a few hints and tips along the way. So to all those people that left a comment, absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to go into the comments in just a moment. But as I said, I do need to just stretch my leg. I know it's only been about, 40 minutes, just under at the moment. But yeah, I had to set up before this point. So just remember, there's a good 20, 25 minutes before that. So it has been about an hour. So I'll be back in seconds. Won't be long. And I'm back. It would literally have been gone about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. My leg feels less achy. Hopefully I won't be moving from side to side too much for the first couple of minutes anyway. And we'll read out the first comment there, not in any particular order, just as I'm reading it, as it came up when I opened up the page. And the first one is from Ian Hill, The Ramblings, my friend Ian, who, if you haven't guessed already, I do a live stream with every Wednesday. He's got fantastic content, which I'll explain in the later part of the video diary. And fantastic guy, big supporter of me. I'm a big supporter of him. We have a great community on a Wednesday. We'd love you all to join. You can ask us anything. Obviously, we have a right or a choice to not answer, depending on the nature of the question. But that's incredibly rare. We had a whole conversation about rice pudding. a week or so ago. You know, I mean, that may sound really boring to you, but actually it was quite a good conversation. I was talking about the hospital rice pudding. He was talking about the rice pudding that he got as a child. Other people were talking about what they used to like with their rice pudding. It went on and on and on. It was great, really. But anyway, what has my friend Ian got to say today? He's put, "Hi, Delboy. Hope you and your mum are doing the best you can. Glad she is out of the hospital. I think she needs to be in her home. Whatever is to come, I always say this to you. Enjoy all the time you have with her. They are precious memories that you will always have." And yeah, to an extent that's true, unless I get this horrible disease that my mum's got, and then those memories won't be there. But we won't talk about that. I get the sentiment. We had another great live stream again. So much fun. Always something I look forward to. There was a lot of laughter. I know, especially when I can't pronounce names properly. Yeah, we have this thing. I think it's my friend Rocket Bunny that says it best. He says it always makes him laugh and smile when he calls Peter Cushing Peter Cushion. And it's just accents, microphone pickup, that sort of stuff. But it does break the ice, and it's fun for everyone. It really is good. To be honest, my health has been good this week. I'm loving not feeling the cold with temperatures now rising. My feet and legs are healing well and not much pain. I hope your body is starting to heal. You have been in a bad way. Yes, we do. One of these things about live streams is you get to have a little chat beforehand, but you get to have a larger chat if time allows at the end. And you can talk about a little bit about what's going on. I talk about it in this video diary. But of course, I always give an insight and say, honestly, before I came on, Ian, honest, this happened, that happened. It's a vent, and he listens, and it's great. It really does help. He continues anyway on this. Highlights for me were watching the 2 Doctor Who episodes back in the archives. That's, if you haven't guessed already, is the 2 Daleks Master Plan episodes that have come back into the BBC archive that were released over the Easter bank holiday, and I watched them as well. Didn't mention them too much last week, but I have watched them. It is great. It's great as well that the community has received them pretty well. The lead up was really, I think, quite poor by not only fans but also non-fans in just 2, etc., etc. All that build-up just for 2 and that. And to be quite honest, you've got to look at this as, well, would you rather have none? You know, you got to do a bit of gratitude on this. There's a lot of effort that has to go in on cleaning these images up, and then they gave them away free by you being able to watch it. You know, and later on you'll be able to have it in your physical media as well, which is going to be fantastic. And we're every time that this happens, we're a step forward to having the complete collection back. Now, there was a time where these missing episodes were in the 200 plus range. We're now at 95. Now, I don't have any qualms or thoughts that I will ever see the whole collection in my lifetime. But it's great that what we've got is diminishing all the time and making my collection even, more of a whole collection than it was before. And that's how I look at it. Always will do. Won't think anything different. So, highlights were watching these 2 Doctor Who episodes. Also watching the progress of Tremis 2. It brought back memories of watching Apollo 8 as a child. All, of course, led to the 1969 moon landing. I remember the presenters, James Burke and Patrick Moore. Wow, Patrick Moore. We don't really talk or say much about him anymore. Sad loss. So Patrick Moore, those were exciting times, and it feels like that again. Yes, the good news story of the week as far as I'm concerned. I've been watching, as usual, a variety of films. I watched a big favourite of mine, Time Crimes 2007, a Spanish sci-fi film, which I love. Who doesn't love a time machine? No, I have to say, I love a time machine, and a time machine TV series or film, absolutely fantastic. Wilders me all that thoughts about paradoxes and things. There's just so much for me to enjoy. Another film I watched was The Stranglers of Bombay, if I read that right. The Stranglers, yeah, The Stranglers of Bombay. A Hammer film that was a historical thriller. It was set in the 1830s in India, controlled by the East India Company. There was a fanatical religious cult, which the word thug orientated also from. Also, Roger Delgado, the master from Doctor Who, was playing a villain. I love the way Hammer was able to create India in the Bray Studios so much better than nowadays when they would use CGI. Yes, that's very true as well, I have to say. And we had such a good time on Wednesday that somebody happened to mention to me that a physical media disc that I've wanted for years, which has cost way too much, it's like been in the 30-40 quid bracket, was sub £10, and they let me know. This is the great thing about live stuff, where somebody can tell you, hey, I can make up a good news story for you if this helps you. Go here today, you can get this for under a tenner. And what a great community we got. That was absolutely marvellous. So my question this week is, when do you think man will land on Mars? I don't think I'm going to see it unless I live a long life. All my best wishes to you, and have a reet grand time. Wow, that's a great question. So we've just gone round the moon, and it's taken us, like 50 years, 50 plus years to even just go round the moon for a future moon landing in the next couple of years. And now suddenly Mars suddenly crops in. And we're talking millions of years, not millions of miles, not thousands. Or should I say hundreds of thousands moon. And you have to look at what are the underlining things that are going to be a problem? Well, there is obviously going to be radiation exposure. But that was a big concern, even with this moon shot. So we'll get round that. We'll be able to do that. There is going to be sort of like the psychological isolation issue. People were commenting about 4 astronauts that were in a size no bigger than a minivan to go around the moon and it was a 10-day mission. You can imagine how long it would take us to get to Mars with current rocket technology. So there is going to be a psychological isolation issue that's going to be there. You're going to have... let me have a think. You're going to have gravity issues. It's going to be a different pull to Mars, and landing on Mars has always been a problem. So the technology is going to be an issue as well. And I suppose another thing as well, which I think we can probably work on, is the long distance communication issue. I think it takes, is it under, I think it's just under 30 minutes for a signal when it's transmitted to actually get to Earth when you're closer to Mars. So if there was an emergency on board, it would take 30 minutes to be told and 30 minutes to go back, plus however long it takes to work on the issue. Yeah, so communication's going to be an issue. It's a tricky one. Will I see it in my lifetime? Well, if I was to say I'll live to when I'm 90, which I doubt, then, and say old age was the thing that I died from, that would make it 30 years. No, I don't think we will land on Mars within 30 years. I could be wrong. Don't get me wrong on that. I'd love it, but I have my doubts. Just purely on money and all of those issues that I mentioned before. I'd so want it to happen. Oh, how good that would be. To see and be around that. To know that I was around for the first moon landing and around for the moon shot in my time now, and then know that we've been to Mars with rovers and probes and things, to actually live and have man walk on Mars would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'd love that. But you're asking me, when do you think we're going to be landing on Mars? Let's say another 50 years, shall we? Being as it's 50 years since, 50 plus years since we last landed on the moon. Let's say another 50 years. And I think that's optimistic. So, no, is my answer to that in my lifetime. And salute, my friend. And if you haven't guessed already, please go and look at his channel. Absolutely fantastic. He's so much content. And it's so diverse. You'll hear about it later on. So we're moving on and we get to Steve Still Plays Games. And let's see what my friend Steve has got to say. And he's put, "Hi Del, thanks for the blog and the updates. The sound seems fine to me." Yeah, this is that bit where I did my apology last time. "I'm hoping everything works well. I did do a test, so it should be. I'm glad your mum is home and I hope things aren't too tiring for you." Yeah, well, it's the tablets now, matey, so that's going to change. And hopefully I'm not going to be in too bad a way in, say, by the next video diary. "I have to say, you're very naughty for buying me a birthday present." Yes, he happened to do, and you'll hear about this later on, that, and why he thinks I'm naughty, I don't know. But he did a video saying, "It's my birthday week," right? And he actually texted me after this. He actually said I was naughty as well. And he said, "I thought by not saying what actual day my birthday was, that would stop people doing what you did, buying me a gift." And my answer to that was, "Yeah, but you told me it's this week, you silly sod. If you hadn't have said it's your birthday this week, then you'd have got nothing, wouldn't you? But you said it was a birthday week and you're one of my best friends. And the game that I bought was no more than, I'll tell you what it was. It was no more than me buying him a card, and you know how much birthday cards cost now, putting a stamp on it, or taking him to the pub and buying him a pint. Right? Is that naughty of me? Yeah, when you consider, what everybody is living under at the moment with the cost of living. Yeah, it was naughty. But I'm pretty sure, actually, I'm not sure, not so sure, he bought me a birthday present. So no, I don't feel bad. Stuff you. So there we are. With that, I hope he enjoyed it. We'll see what he says. He said, but I really appreciated the gift and I'm enjoying the game a lot. I have a 1973 mod on it and it's so cool. Glad you're enjoying it, matey. It's one of those ones that's not talked about or played a lot on YouTube videos, but it was right up your street. Oh my God, was it right up your street? And I just thought to myself, do you know what? There's absolutely no way that you could say, oh, this is going to go in my collection, but I'll never play it, right? In my head, I went, if he doesn't play this, then I really just at a loss on what you like and what you don't like, because I watch your videos all the time and I love them to bits. And there's always the, I hate timers, I hate up for jump, I hate this, I hate that. I love this, I love that. But it's so difficult to get all of the like bits together and find a game that doesn't have one of the dislikes in it. Do you know what I mean? So it was a game, by the way, sort of in the vein of racing driving, but a strategy version of it. Very similar to a game that he did a video on a long time ago, and Mainmeister did the same thing. It was a Formula 1 game on our old 8-bit computers where all you saw was the car going past the start or the finish line, and all you got then was updates on what was going on beyond on the rest of the track, and then it told you whether you went up the pack or not. This one was a bit more comprehensive than that, but it's not like you're racing. You know, you're not picking up a joypad and trying to go around bends and stuff. It's all strategy. So hopefully you like that. He continues, Fictional Planet. Ooh, there's so many. This is from last week, by the way, where somebody asked me to name planets or fictional planets I'd like to visit. There's so many, he says, but I'd probably pick, let me see if I can get the pronunciation right, Minbar. But the planet I'd never ever pick would be Zardum, for obvious reasons. I'm still glued to the Artemis 2 telemetry streams. The last few days have been awesome, and it takes me back to the Apollo days. Artemis 3 can't come fast enough. Yeah, even if it is only going to be in a low Earth orbit. Artemis 4 is the biggie, where the land on the moon. But will I still be around to see that in 2028? I do hope so. Okay, question time. If you were to mash 2 comedy films together to make a new third film, what films do you pick and why? All the best, my friend, and give my love to your mum. Oh, do you know what? I used to have a little joke about this. Because there was a joke I heard a comedian say once where he said, I've just heard that they're combining My Left Foot with Free Willy. And the film's going to be called My Free Foot Willy. Right? For obvious reasons, schoolboy humour, that made me laugh and smile, and I've never forgotten it. Christ. Let me have a think. You put me on the spot, you see, because my brain's not particularly great. How about Spider-Man Far From Home and Home Alone, which would make it Spider-Man Far From Home Alone. Not exactly 2 comedies. That's hard to do. 2 comedies together to make a third comedy. Oof. But I think that one's for obvious reasons. It's just the title. And I think the titles are probably going to be the things that's going to be funny about it. How about a film I watched the other day, by the way? Again, it was just on TV, and I watch it every time it's on TV. It's Dirty Harry. And one over Christmas I watched, which I haven't watched in years, and it came to mind because of the Oscars, actually, where they celebrated the life of the director Reiner, who did a film called When Harry Met Sally. So you could have Dirty Harry Met Sally. That's a bit sad, that one, isn't it? But can you imagine Clint Eastwood meeting Sally from When Harry Met Sally? Yeah, I can see the tumbleweed going across now as I do it. What about there's a film, No Country for Old Men. This was mentioned, I think, in the Wednesday stream. No Country for Old Men. And what a film that was on over Easter on Film 4, Men in Black. So that would be No Country for Old Men in Black. Oh, God. This is getting harder and harder now. There was a film I watched as a kid, and there was a 2000 remake with Jamie Lee Curtis, and it was a Disney film called Freaky Friday, which involved swapping bodies between your mum and your daughter. And I've always liked the horror films Friday the 13th. So you could have Freakier Friday the 13th. Oh dear. I'm going to stop now while I'm ahead. Hopefully I've made you giggle or at least smile, Steve. I think I've destroyed that. But yeah, there's probably, yeah. Okay, here's the last one. The Lion King and King Kong, which would make the Lion King Kong. Nah, that's awful. Yeah, I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you very much for being a supporter of me, Steve. Please keep up your content. You make me laugh. You don't die enough anymore. You're not putting on games where every 2 seconds you're dying in the game. But I can live with that. As long as you're happy, my friend. Thank you so much, and salute. We move on now to Jambon. My friend Jambon. Who I go to Pinfest with and is a big supporter, and he's part of my Discord, and we get to chat on occasion. It's brilliant. He's put, "Hi Del, thanks for another excellent vlog," or diary. I like to call it a diary. "Enjoyed watching it whilst playing Regency Solitaire, which is about as much gaming as my brain can handle at the moment." Oh, tell me about it. "Hope you enjoyed Suspiria and hope to hear your thoughts on it at some point. Hopefully this week, matey. I must admit, it's been a bit tricky the last couple of days, but it's down for me to do. I find Dario Argento films are best enjoyed after several large glasses of wine. And I'll tell you what, I miss a glass of wine. I miss an alcoholic drink, to be quite honest. Haven't had one for a long time. I won't say years. I've had the odd one. I had the last alcoholic drink I had was Christmas, and the time before that was the Christmas before that. I rattle when I walk because of the tablets I take. I take 20, what was the last count? 23 tablets a day. All to do with painkillers, heart, blood pressure, cholesterol, amongst other things, ailments. So yeah, this is why I don't expect to live to when man lands on Mars, to be quite honest. I have a question, please, but please ignore if you've been asked before. He always puts that, you know, and I keep telling him, no, I'm going to answer anyway. There's been a lot in the news about rising fuel costs and things we might look into to reduce our fuel consumption as a country. What do you think about the suggestion that we reduce the maximum speed limit on motorways and dual carriageways, either temporarily or permanently? That's an interesting question. Wow. What do I know about this subject? Well, I do know that, because I mean, obviously I've been a naughty boy in the past, you know, where you go to speed classes, you know, in regards to you were speeding in a zone that you shouldn't have been, and you went round past a speed camera. And I've been to one of those classes in the 40 plus years that I've been driving. I tend to not speed, and I've got all of that technology in my car to stop me from doing something like that. So what do I know about it? Well, I do know that if you reduce your speed, you lower the fuel consumption on your car anywhere between 10 and 20%. So it makes perfect sense. But and we know that therefore will lower emissions. But we also know that there's going to be a problem, isn't there? I think there would also be better safety. So these are all pros, but the negatives of it all is that the increased journey times. I know for a fact that even though that you reduce only by 10 or 15 miles an hour, people are going to turn around and go, oh, I'm going to be 15 minutes later for this meeting I've got to go to if they're on the road or whatever. We now work from home mostly, so you know, I don't know quite what the motorways are like, being as I haven't been on the motorway for a while now. But that means that if that does happen, you're probably going to have a hit on the ecology, you know, the economic cost of things, because your productivity is going to be down. Whether you have to set off early or what, I don't know. But I know the one thing is we don't keep within the speed limits anyway. So you're going to get road rage, aren't you? You're going to get people that are complete arseholes sticking their fingers up, shouting at people, oh, when did you learn to drive, you miserable bastard? You know, you're going to get all of that, aren't you? And you're therefore going to get people that are going to be changing lanes an awful lot, which could cause then safety issues in the same way that you get safety issues for people that speed. So it's got its pros, it's got its cons. It sounds like a good idea, but in policing it and making sure people keep to it, yeah. Can't see it happening myself, matey, but it sounds like it'd be probably good. I'll let the other people with a better brain than me explain that one more than me, matey, because I'm useless. But I hope I've given a good answer, and thank you so much for the comment. And can't wait to meet you again in end of August. So we move on to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, good friend of mine, very technical, always looks out for me, even if he does like to prove me wrong or correct me as much as he does. It's all in good jovial manner, should I say. So he's put, let's read out what he's put. Glad to see your mum is home, but I see challenging times ahead, and that care package seems to be more trouble than it should be. I hope you can quickly get into a routine so things can be easier for the three of you. send in my regards as always, and thank you so much. That's absolutely brilliant. That's all I need to get me through the week, to be quite honest. You put, are you using the brownie mix kits? They make things so much easier. Oh my God. Now, if I was to say that to my sister, I've made some brownies and I've used a kit, we'd be having a 10-minute slagging match. It wouldn't be that bad. But my sister is one of those ones that, you know, we've had discussions like this before where I'd say we can't keep up this buying fresh salmon and all of this sort of stuff. She's very much a make things from scratch. If you're going to make bread, you make it with the ingredients. You don't buy a bread kit. Do you see what I mean? So, oh my God. So I've tried to push myself, and I've made brownies now a couple of times, and I've tried to do it from scratch, and I think I'm getting a bit better. Only the people that eat it other than me will be able to comment on that. But there you go. You continue. Fictional planet Prism from the Humanx Commonwealth by Alan Dean Foster. Yes, the book. Yeah. I haven't read that myself. I don't think. No, I haven't. So that sounds interesting. I'd like to know what your answer is on the reason why you haven't put. I was asked what and why. You've given a planet, but no background to it. But then again, it's great because I can look that up now. I can be intrigued, can't I? There is an elemental on your shoulder. Quote from the movie you mentioned. Yes, that's in From Beyond the Grave. And by the way, that was the film that was mentioned to me that I could now buy for under a tenner. The only person who escaped those items was the one who didn't cheat the shop owner, the door of evil. That's right, Ian Ogilvy at the end. And he came bloody close. I'll reiterate, there really are some people in the world that have who have such sad lives that the only enjoyment they get is from putting down other people. They seem to be attracted to the relative anonymity that the internet provides. Sad bastards that are best ignored despite how prevalent they are. And yeah, the best way for me probably is not to mention it and to not read out a comment that mentions it. But if people write a comment, I have to reiterate. And yeah, totally agree. There are just people out there that just want to make things bad for people, no matter how hard they're finding life at the moment. And maybe it cheers up their own sad lives. What can I say? I don't know. I can't. I don't. They're anonymous, so I don't know who they are. So, by the way, I looked into this and I could find out. There are tools, and I've been shown some sites that I could go to. So maybe it's not going to be that long. Just letting you just deliberating a little bit there. But anyway, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Trains are my job and not something I want to be doing when I'm away from work. And you put a big smiley, laughing out loud sort of face. And I have to say this. I will still say this. I work in computers, but I love coming home and working on a computer, and I love playing games. My whole business has been computers. And although I mentioned games that you are a trained driver, it doesn't stop you from doing a SimCity type game, which has got rail travel in it. And from that point of view, it could be quite enjoyable, could be an idea or a food for thought. And I'm pretty sure, that, you've shown a slidey puzzle type game that involves trains that you have to move the slidey pieces to get past the train stations. And if that isn't a train game, or you've never played Loco in your life, or Suicide Express, or anything else, then I'll eat my hat. Right? And I know I'm being facetious here, and I'm doing it all in jest. But you do play train games. Sorry, but you do. But I understand the sentiment. It's that complex, comprehensive, you're a train driver and you got to start the train up in a certain order and you got to go a certain mile an hour and all of that sort of stuff. Get it, totally. Continuing. Telegram have recently brought in a new feature of AI text editing for which there is no way to disable. While I haven't yet, I'm seriously considering deleting my Telegram account, but for the moment I'm using third-party clients. I'm sick of Gen AI being shoehorned into every aspect of the internet without a way to opt out. So my question this week is, what do you think about this tendency of AI up everything? And I've mentioned it before, matey. They're doing it at work. They're asking me to, before I send an email, run it through AI and it will put it into a better structure and send it off, or use AI to take away some of the analysis work that I do, etc., etc. I shy away from it as much as possible. I've said that AI can be used as a tool. Use it for curing cancer, whatever. But I don't like the idea that it's being shoehorned in with no option to be in or out of using it. You know, do you wish to opt in for having this integrated into something that you use every day? Yeah, I'd like to opt out, please. No, not going to happen. It's not happening, and they're shoehorning it now into everything. You got an increase in bias with doing this. Possible job losses for taking away menial tasks. Decreasing your mind skills, because what you used to do instantly with writing an email and putting some thought behind it, you're running it through an AI chat engine to give you an apology email or whatever. Oh, I'll let the AI write the apology for me. Crap. Obviously, there's less human interaction with AI. And I dare say you can use AI for data breaches. So an AI talks to an AI and one AI is stronger than the other and they beat that AI and then get a load of data from there. I don't like it. I think that's the best answer I could possibly give to that. You could make a whole video episode on AI and why I dislike it and where I think it could be well used. Maybe that'll happen between me and Denny at some point. Don't know. But, you know, I have to agree with you that if they're shoehorning that into something that you use regularly, it's awful. Salute, my friend, and if you haven't guessed already, Steve and Ponder both have YouTube accounts and Twitch accounts. I'm not a big fan of Twitch, but you can follow them on there and you can watch some fantastic, entertaining videos. They are content creators. They deserve your time. Moving on, we've got Wee Bob, who again has got his own YouTube channel as well. And he's put, as always, I enjoyed listening along. I have this weekend and this morning been doing more episodes of the Project Zomboid series, which I'm enjoying doing. If you're enjoying it, matey, fantastic, because I tell you what, I'm really enjoying watching it. I actually had a thought about it, you know. You've got a narrative done in the voice of Morgan Freeman, and you're playing the game and then you put this narrative over the top. And it's very much like listening to an audio book, but you're actually watching a cartoon graphic act out what's going on. And I was thinking of my friend Denny, actually, who wanted to bring text adventures to YouTube, for which he did do a couple of, but he naturally thought people aren't going to watch it. They're going to find it boring. But I was just thinking myself, do you know what? If you could use a text to speech program to read out the description of the adventure, and that in turn changes the voice to a well-known celebrity within certain criteria, that'd be really quite good, because it'd be like listening to an audio book. That'd be good, wouldn't it? But I get it as well. Actually, Denny's not a big fan of AI, so I don't expect that to happen. But it's one way of making text adventures watchable on YouTube, you know? So I'll just read out the rest, what I was saying here. I will state I am using AI as a tool for the voice generation and to help me make my little scripts that little bit better. I'm also using AI for music generation, as it means I don't have to worry about copyright issues, and I can customize the songs to the theme of the video. So far, I think I have another 1 episode uploaded and another 5 in the pipeline. Today, I did run out of footage. Is this either due to me not surviving or not getting a chance to play the game? I will leave it a mystery. No, that's absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to put it down to, matey, it's down to your time. We know that. I think that's, anyway, that's where I'm going to leave that one. I have watched your card reviews, but need to watch them again, as I was busy doing other stuff while listening. Today, I listened to the vlog, I call it a video diary, while clearing up my son's old room, now a spare room, as he, for the moment, has moved out. I am thinking about turning it into something cool and may try to record me decorating it and getting things set up as a video idea. That'd be good, especially if you do a mural. I don't think it'd be very interesting me seeing you put up Dulux gloss on a wall, unless I'm seriously not knowing how I can use a paint roller in my life. But I know where you're coming from with that. I haven't done much of the art channel recently, as I have, like Canada Robert, lost a bit of motivation on that front. It will come back, but for the past 4 or 5 weeks, I've been suffering from some health issues and having to work overtime. No, we get it, matey. And I watched a video that I nearly copied you in on. There was this guy, and I think I've mentioned it actually, so I think I'll leave it to the end. No, I will mention it now. He took stills from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and he then tried to do a cover to The Amazing Spider-Man, but in the style of John Romita Sr. So, of course, all of that got my interest up, watched it, and I learnt an awful lot. He put masks on, drew in purple so that he could see what he was doing, took the background image away, filled it in with his own style. In this instance, honing John Romita's style, and then used the obvious dressing that they use on a comic book cover, like the 35-cent symbol, the Amazing Spider-Man symbol that goes across the top of the page of the comic, the side window, which tells you what issue number it was, and put some word caption balloons on the cover, which, by the way, they haven't done in 20 years now. They took away all the word balloons, even taking away the name of what the title of the story within the comic book itself. They don't do that anymore. I miss those days. They look like poster covers now, not even telling you what the actual issue is about. So you're buying it now just for the love of the art. If you see what I mean. You continue. Once I get this room set up, though, hopefully I can get to recording videos in a nicer setting and perhaps show off some items I have picked up. Sorry to go on about my videos, etc., but I thought you might find it interesting. Absolutely. Anyway, glad things are more improved, and I wish you and your mum and family all the best. Thank you, and I will pass that on, Bob. I had a weird coincidence the other day, as during the day my daughter came over and was randomly watching the movie Arrival. I mentioned to her that I loved the score. Later that night, my wife and I decided to watch Hamnet. Yeah, I've got that film. I watched that, which is a new movie. And at the end of that movie, they used the Arrival main theme. I thought I was going mad, and it was a weird coincidence. Have you had a similar experience with film scores or some coincidence that happened in life that was a bit spooky? All the best. And I actually did answer that in text form. I said, I put heart left to keep the comment, but as for some homework, listen to Conan the Barbarian, then Total Recall, then listen to Battle Beyond the Stars, and then Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. But I will give you my full answer on Sunday. Yes, because this is something that has been around for quite some time, to be quite honest. When Star Wars came out and you had the Imperial March, many people commented and said, do you know what? This sounds eerily like Gustav's classical piece of music, The Planet. And it does. Mars, the bringer of war. You listen to the Imperial March and you can't help but notice the similarity in the track. Now, I mentioned those other films because they're well documented and well discussed in soundtrack circles, which is, if you listen to Conan the Barbarian, which is done by Polisarius, I think his name is, and you listen to Total Recall, which is a Jerry Goldsmith score, the very beginning, the very first 20 seconds, they sound exactly the same. And it's no coincidence that that is true, because when Total Recall was commissioned to Jerry Goldsmith to do the score, and they wanted to do a special screening, they used Conan the Barbarian's initial music in that special screening, because the music hadn't been written yet. And it was therefore easy to see why Jerry Goldsmith would do that. Other ones I've noticed this in, I do know that Gladiator sounds very much like Pirates of the Caribbean or King Arthur. They sound very, very similar, but not quite as good as that. So I think I've given you some answers there, because we've done the Jerry Goldsmith Polisarius one. But Horner's terrible. God bless him, and I miss him very much for his scores. But Battle Beyond the Stars, look, I mean, there's so much copy and pasting to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And there is 3-year gap between the two. It should never be happening. But he's done other ones. I think Bicentennial Man sounds very much like another film. I can't quite remember which one it was, though. I think it was A Beautiful Mind. But don't quote me on that last one. So I hope that's given you some answers. That was absolutely brilliant. What it made me think. My God. But interesting. And I love my film scores. You know that. moving on, and we get to Carl Todd. And what's he put? He's put, "Hi Del." Oh, by the way, Weebob's got a channel. Please go and look and subscribe, or at least watch a few of his videos. Absolutely fantastic if you like digital art and gaming and films. Carl Todd, he's put, "Hi Del. Hopefully I've made it in time for this week's blog. I'm still really busy at work, so I tend to add my comments at the weekend. I was out and about with the wife yesterday and also getting ready for the Songkran. It's a Thai New Year holiday, so I'm late this week. I hope that things have been okay with your mum this week and that she is happy to be home. I remember going through a similar time with my own mum and having the nurses visit each day to assist. Make the most of the help you can get and try to learn what you can from the nurses." Absolutely. "I hope that things with your own health are improving too. I know that you always enjoy receiving some questions, so here are some for this week." And you know I do, and thank you so much. I hope I'm not going to make a pig's ear of it though. You put, "I've seen some people saying that the film Project Hail Mary is a return to hard sci-fi. I'm not sure if you have seen the film yet, not yet. But I wonder if you miss the harder sci-fi films, where had to pay attention to the story and not everything was spelt out for you." I don't think they've ever gone away. I've liked Interstellar, The Martian. Those films, they are long and far between, bordering more on the films like Life, the film Life and stuff like that. So I do like hard-hitting, more on science type things, even if they're down to earth like Twister, which is more a disaster film and about what's going on Earth than they are in science fiction in space, say, or films like Alien and stuff like that. But I just like films, matey, I have to say. But I am looking forward to seeing Project Hail Mary. I believe you can actually leave out the first hour nearly. That's what Commode said. But yeah, I really want to see that film. It's about 2.5 hours long, and it was reviewed by Naga Milchetti on her what a must-watch segment of Radio 5 on a Monday. So that was interesting. Number 2, I don't know if you have ever watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series, or if you liked it, disliked it, but I wonder if you have any thoughts about the new reboot version that was in development being cancelled, especially the news reports, which were all reporting that the executive that was in charge was often saying that they didn't like the original. Is it a wise decision to have someone in charge that was so negative from the onset? Well, I will say this: Russell T Davies with Doctor Who is a fanboy of Doctor Who, and the last couple of years of Doctor Who, it's almost like he's got no filter. He's got no one to play against, being executive showrunner, and so when he's written the stories, he's writing them in a sort of bias. And so there is that as a problem. What else can I say about it? If they don't like the original, maybe they're coming in from a different angle, and that might be a good thing. yeah, there is that school of thought. And other than that, I can't think of anything. I hope you saw I was trying to think then. Couldn't really do it very well. But I would prefer to have somebody in it that enjoyed was a fan of it than a non-fan, I think. We've all seen Star Trek The Motion Picture, where Bob Wise, a fantastic director who knows how to make films, but wasn't a fan or even had watched the program when he was given the gig to do. So, yeah. Number 3, you continue, maybe a little off topic, but in your blog, and this question relates to you, are you excited about the prospect of Coventry being in the Premier League? How do you think they will do? Oh, wow. I've been watching Coventry for years and years and years, and this year I've been scrutinising them left, right and centre, because for the first time in a long time, they've been top of that particular league table, which is the Championship table, than they've ever done in their life spell. So that's a record for them as a team in itself. But what's my expectation, I therefore think, is what you're saying in regards to them staying up while they're in the Championship. I'd say it's pretty high at the moment, but I have to be realistic. Most people that go up go straight back down the next year. There are exceptions, of course, but I'm a realist, and I don't know what the team will do at Coventry in regards to dropping their manager, dropping players, or keeping players to go into the new season with. They're playing in a whole new league, which is obviously under a lot of scrutiny, but they will also, have people that they want to retain because they'll do it because of money. Yeah, they're not going to have an awful lot of money. They do get quite a bit in regards to just actually being promoted into the Premiership. But it won't be enough not to keep them up. Not when you've got such well-established teams that are at the top and will remain at the top. So I'm a bit of a realist on that. And I'll be back in one moment. I hope you don't mind. I've just got to get some water.
And just to end with Carl Todd, he's put best wishes to you and your mum. And as always, thanks for answering my question. That's absolutely my pleasure. Like I say, when it comes to Coventry, no sort of like, I really don't think that they'll probably last that long, but I hope that they do. 25 years to get back up. I mean, it's a long time. So I only have my hopes with that. But it's been a bloody entertaining year watching them this year. I will say that. Salute, my friend. And last comment is from Martroid, who said, I didn't hear any issues with the sound at all, Del. No, I'd corrected it. All good on my end. Really glad to hear your mum's finally home. And honestly, credit to you and the way you're handling everything. And my sister, buddy. Just make the most of the time that you've got with your loved ones and enjoy those moments as much as you can. Cheers, bud, and thank you very much. Absolutely brilliant. I used Adobe Premiere and normalized the sound. I don't know why I didn't think about that before I uploaded it the first time, but there you go. And that concludes the shout-outs and reading that out. So we get to the last part of this video, really, which is what I've watched on YouTube and subsequent pages. So as always, there are 4 big channels that I watch in the watched on YouTube bit, which I watch religiously each week, and that's This Week in Retro, Techmoan, Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming. And each one of those brought out a video this week, so that was great. This Week in Retro did 50 years of Apple, Moon, the computer part.
Oh, the computer part that made sure we do not miss an Omega race counts as racing. Yeah, they were both. All of those were quite interesting to listen to. They had a guest on again. I think Chris is back next week, so that was good. I always enjoy listening to This Week in Retro. Techmoan had Mark's Tat Part 2, more Tat it was called, which was very entertaining. Stuff that I wouldn't buy, but it's great that somebody else does and you can watch it and go, oh, that was interesting. The Gadget Show had Apple's biggest flops, what went wrong. I suppose that's because of the 50th anniversary of Apple. So again, interesting. It had the Newton on there and a few other things. I'll let you watch it. And Chronologically Gaming did a pause from last week where he's still in 1982. He did a Let's Read Electronic Games mag. This was released in December. Don't get me wrong, but it was the 1983 Buyer's Guide. So it was the December issue telling you what to expect in the early part of 1983. So that was interesting. Gave you an insight, you know what I mean, on what they knew at the time. Probably less information to get, you know, based on no internet and the rest. So that was interesting. Then I watched a YouTube channel called Lone Box Studios. He turned Spider-Man Raimi stills from the free films and turned them into classic covers in the style of John Romita Sr. I might have mentioned that earlier on in this diary. That was great. And although I wouldn't say it looked very much like John Romita, I could understand some of the angles were, definitely. I could see bits of it, but there were bits as well that I just went, oh, he wouldn't draw like that. But that's just me being picky. It was a very entertaining half an hour watch. Then I watched various NASA and CNN YouTube videos this week because it was the Artemis 2 broadcasts. So if I didn't see it on a terrestrial, I was watching it on YouTube at the, you know, a lot of them were live. So that was good. Then I watched an old channel that I haven't watched in ages called Comic Tropes, and I realised that he's had a bit of a disaster. He's had a flood and it's destroyed 25% of his collection. Such a shame. But he did a video on Marvel's... The actual episode was called Marvel Actually Had to Rush the Spider-Man Wedding. Yeah, now I know an awful lot about the Spider-Man Wedding in comics. It happened in around about 1986-87. They tried to tie up the newspaper strip with the monthly comic. There was a big event at a baseball ground where they actually had actors dress up as Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and they actually made a wedding dress. The wedding dress was designed and done by an actress, but it was the same designer that drew the wedding design for Mary Jane in the comic. Lots went on, but what happened was there was a panel where Stan Lee and I think it was Jim Shooter, and somebody came up and said, when do you think Mary Jane and Peter Parker will marry? And apparently they had a conversation after the Comic-Con and said, we ought to do it this year or by June this year. And the monthly comics only had 12 issues to turn a story around, and it was very easy to do in the newspaper strip because the newspaper strip came out daily, so you had more time. Didn't have that much time. You only had 12 issues to turn the whole Mary Jane and Peter Parker getting together to get to the point of proposing and then marrying. And 12 issues is nothing. It's 12 times 32 pages. That's all you've got. So it was quite difficult to do, especially as there were other stories going on in other monthly Spider-Man magazines like Spectacular Spider-Man. So very difficult to tie up. So it really was difficult. That's an interesting watch if you're into that sort of thing. Then I watched Pixel Cherry Ninja because he commented and said that the Replay 2 FPGA was now in a prototype. So what does that mean? I've got something called a Mister, and it uses a Nano 10 board. And they've been talking for a long time about the successor to the Nano 10 board. I think they're going to go with the Nano 25 board, but it's the cost of this thing. The cost of the Nano 25 board is now the same price as the Nano 10 board was 5 years ago. So they're now starting to develop a prototype for the successor, and the prototype is in production and out there. That's good news. It's good news for people that want to go beyond what the Nano 10 can do. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people don't want to do that. But if you're interested in Dreamcast or Nintendo 64, or, you know, more headroom for the arcade cores, then you need to think about this. And it's something to get excited about and watch, really. It's just nice to see things in development. Saying that, I saw the development of this. This was from a channel called Retro Gamer Nation that wanted to show off a game called Impossible Mission 3, a successor to Impossible Mission 1 and Impossible Mission 2. The video was called Impossible Mission 3: The C64 Comeback, and TrevIcon64 has been showing his work on it because he's been working on it, and it's now going to be out in the next couple of weeks, and it looks absolutely marvelous. There are things that I would still do differently. There's this section where there's a intro where the agent parachutes down, and when he lands, he walks into the building. I'd have done him doing a little somersault to prove that it was him, but that's neither here nor there. It's being picky, but I'd have done that, and it was great to watch. And then I watched something that had been broadcast that morning, but I missed it. It was the BBC Archives showed off a Laurel and Hardy segment in Breakfast TV, because they were celebrating the 100 years of Laurel and Hardy appearing in their first film together as Laurel and Hardy. 100 years to that day it was. That was the reason for the broadcast. And, of course, I love Laurel and Hardy. So anything that gets Laurel and Hardy in the limelight again, I instantly was all over it. I thought it was great. So going on to the next bit, which is film, TV and soundtrack YouTube. We start off with Ian Hill, The Ramblings. As you know, I've talked about Ian Hill before, and I think that you ought to go and subscribe, or at least go and watch some of his videos, possibly give a like. The guy deserves it. I have a great time with him on Wednesdays. What had he done this week? Wow, my God. Here we go. My top 5 westerns between 1982 and 85. Doctor Who review, The Crusade. X-Files review, Season 6, Episode 6. What Have I Watched, Episode 13. And Live With Me, Episode 102, which was this Wednesday, just gone. 103 next week. Absolutely marvellous. Had a great time. And like I say, he definitely deserves your attention. Moving on, I saw Mondo Chelovic Movies. He did his 88 films as a distributor or a boutique label. And he was showing off the Slasher and Italian collection of 4Ks and Blu-rays that he'd got just recently. That was marvellous. Really enjoyed that. I learned so much from people that collect things that I don't have a huge collection of, and I get a better understanding about horror from that way. Then I watched Movie Collector, who I've talked about a number of times. He's that ex-projectionist. He did a review of Braveheart, which is a 1995 film, I think it is, directed by Mel Gibson. He did a 4K review, and it was great. Loved that, because I really do like that film, and it's good to know whether I think I ought to upgrade my particular edition or not. Both of those, as you can tell, have got their own channels, so I think you ought to go and have a little look at those. My friend Jim Jam, who I've met, actually physically met, he lives not too far, up in Birmingham. His channel's called Jim Jam Movies and TV. He did a couple of videos. He hasn't done one. He didn't do one last week, so it was nice to see a couple this week. He did a few freebies that he'd got that week. Plus, he did an extra one called "Did CEX Really Have 37 Titles by Network?" Because he goes online, finds out how much the shop has in stock of his beloved label Network. And then he did a little game by himself going, I'm going to look along the shelf, see if I can find all 37 titles. Go and have a look. Definitely interesting. And then, of course, I watched my Commode on film and Commode and Mayo's Take videos that are on YouTube. They used to be on radio. And the Commode on Film podcast was an episode called "It's Been 27 Years. Has Mark's Opinion Changed on the Film Eyes Wide Shut?" I'll let you watch that to find out. And then Commode and Mayo's Take, which is the review section. He did the reviews this week of Undertone, The Stranger, Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, and the 10th of the 4th, 2026, most downloaded film chart. Absolutely marvellous. I didn't believe some of the titles that were downloaded were still in the top 10. Things like Interstellar, it's still in the top 10 after 300 and something odd weeks. My God. So, yeah, it just shows how popular that film is. And the last page is Game and Tech YouTube, which is people that I know. They're part of my Discord, part of Mainmeister's Discord, or people that I've spoken to on a number of occasions outside of the realms of what you see here. And we start off with Down the Rabbit Hole, who's Canadian royalty, just like Robert's Retro Gaming. He did some great stuff this week. He did an Excalibur film 4K review, and that was great because he doesn't do that many film reviews. He does do some, but he doesn't do a lot. He also did Tato's game called Growl on my 1/6 scale arcade machine. So he's got a 1/6 scale little handheld type arcade thing with its own screen, and he played Tato's Growl on it. I think I've seen Growl before. It's not one that I played in the arcades much because it wasn't really one that really appealed to me, but it's great to see that. And then he did another one which I wish I could say more about, but I've said it before. I didn't have enough friends to play Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and one of his favourite Dungeons and Dragons types games was something called Star Frontiers. Now, I've been watching these videos and I'm getting to understand the rules set a little bit more. So he did a video called Star Frontiers, How Do You Give Experience? Because in all Dungeons and Dragons stuff, how do you give experience to someone? I mean, experience is something that in real life you get, isn't it? You gain experience. How do you give it? So that was interesting. Really enjoyable. Definitely go and have a look at that channel. Brilliant, lovely guy as well. Absolutely fantastic. Comes over here on occasions as well to our own country. He did live over here for a period of time. Anyway, I'll let you learn that by going and experiencing his channel. Then we got the other Canadian royalty, Robert's Retro Gaming, who, apologies, but his comment was deleted because I had to re-upload my video. He did a heck of a lot this week. My God, he always does a ton. Look at this stuff, look, all right? You got Dwarf Fortress Classic, episode 33, Minecraft Play, episode 188, Pico 8 gameplay, Wavy Navy, which I've played on the C64. I haven't played it on the Pico 8. NES gameplay of Yoshi, which is like a Tetris type thing. C64 gameplay of a game called Venture 64, which I've played in the arcades but never really played it on the Commodore 64, so that was interesting. I think it's a newer game, that one. It's one of those ones that's been done in the 2020s. Do you know what I mean? And then some Atari 8-bit gameplay, which is how I sort of like go to watch, because I don't think the Atari 8-bits get a much of a lookout for, really. And he did Destiny, the Cruiser, Wolfpack, and can't read my own writing. Villania, I think it's called. Transylvania, that's it. It's called Transylvania, but it's spelt weird. Transylvania. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic amount of stuff there. He's probably brought out more since I was talking in this diary. So definitely worth your watch. Salute, my friend, as the same for Down the Rabbit Hole. We get to Steve Still Plays Games, who's celebrating a birthday week. You can tell that because one of the videos I'm going to mention in a minute. So he did a Dark Souls episode 15 and 16, Commodore 64 videos of Crystals of Zong and Venture, to mimic what Robert did. Birthday week special, various games played because he could and he wanted to, and it's his birthday, so why not? Totally agree with that. So absolutely marvellous. Some great stuff there to watch. I got some great entertainment watching that. And of course, it's his birthday this week. So let's embarrass him some more, shall we? Moving on, we've got 20th Century Gaming, my friend Mark. He did some videos this week rather than did a live stream. He did 3 Spectrum games. They were Ghouls and Ghosts, Ghosts and Goblins, and Stormlord. But what he did was he played the games, recorded the footage, and then superimposed the Commodore 64 music over the top of it. Really quite nice. I really enjoyed that. Interesting idea to do. I think it's been done before, but it was nice coming from him. Then we've got Wee Bob, who I mentioned earlier on before. He's got a channel, Wee Bob, and he's got a channel called Wee Bob Art. But under the channel Wee Bob, he did Project Zomboid episode 5, which I mentioned earlier, and he mentioned as well. We've got my friend Colin Jones, aka Ponder. He did his video blog episode 102, because his blogs are every 3 weeks. Everything C64 challenge of Who Dares Wins, bloody hard game that. And Tuber's high score challenge of Lords of Thunder, which was very entertaining. I'm no good at the arcade games, I have to say. I was better back then. Terrible now. But that was really good. He's got a channel. Wee Bob's got a channel. 20th Century's channel. Century Gaming has got a channel. Please go and have a look at those. And then my old mate Mainmeister. He did a live stream last Sunday of Tony Crowther Games Part 2. But he also did a live with me on Friday, which was, the subject was, is 1985 better than 2026 with me? And we had a number of subjects like films, technology, cars. We had a number of... It's going to have to be split into 2 because after 2 hours, we had to sort of like call it a night. And of course, he's doing a tour of England type thing. He's going to Leeds, meeting up with a load of friends, and they're going to an arcade club. Unfortunately, I can't make that because of my mum's health. It's quite a far travel as well. But I'd have liked to have done that. Maybe in the future I'll be able to do that. And that comes to the end of the written part of the blog. And so we'll just get to what's arrived this week. And to be quite honest, one thing's arrived this week. It just goes to show you what I'm buying, which is next to nothing. Here's the overhead cam. This arrived this week. It is the 4K release of the film Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo and Morgan Freeman. It comes in a slipcover. I got it cheap because it has got damage. I don't know if you can see. There is some scratches there, look. I got £5 off for that. I haven't opened it yet or seen it, but, you know, anybody who's
watched my blog will have heard me say at least once, and I might have even shown it. I had the Laserdisc of this. I know I've got the DVD and the Blu-ray, but I can't find the boxes for those. They're probably in one of my big standoff boxes that I've got behind me and upstairs and around me. This is the American one, but 4K has no region protection. Only the Blu-ray will. And if I'm looking on the back, I don't know. Oh, yes, the Blu-ray will be region protected. So be wary of that. If you're thinking of importing this, you'll only be able to play the 4K if you're in the UK or you have a multi-system player. And that's the end of that. Thank you for watching. It's been an absolute blast doing these video diaries. I've had a challenging week, but one that's starting to show some leveling off and some light at the end of the tunnel, which I'm holding on as the positivity that I said that I was going to have this year. Thanks to everybody that supported me, commented, watched, all of that sort of stuff. You're very, very much appreciated to me. I do pass on the well-beings to my mum. Not that she'll recognise you much now, but she did. And I continue to do that just for normality's sake. And with that, I'm going to say salute. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. Roll on next week. And see you on the flip side. Bye-bye. Salute.